welcome to another week of the Hogs Happy Hour here on the Four Star Sports Media Network. I'm your host, Blake. As always, I'm joined by Ashton and Jason. If you're watching us live on Facebook, please like and share the video. Okay, that helps us out more than you think. And also send us stars when you are able to. You can always download the podcast wherever you find your podcast, and please rate the show. Later on the show, we will have Dave Shumate from Mach 10 Sports joining us to talk some SEC football and basketball, and especially talk about some recent job openings that Dave has a lot of information about because he used to work for Jimbo Fisher down at Texas A&M. So I'm sure he will have some great insight. So, fellas, what is up?
Hey man, nothing. Just live from my mom's basement. Nothing. No big deal. Nah, man. Just kind of curious to see, what our topics are today, to see what we talk about, and I kind of have some personal feelings to get off my chest, Blake.
I don't know. Are you ready to talk about this roller coaster of a coaching, quote unquote, coaching search for Arkansas?
Yeah. I mean, according to some, we are headed that way. All right. So before we get to the quote unquote coaching search, let's talk about this past Saturday. Auburn came to town and whooped some, you know what, to the tune of 48-10. Just a drumming. Arkansas was a 2.5 point favorite coming into the game, and they end up losing by 38. So shows that no one really kind of saw this coming. You would think coming off of a first time in school history, we went down to Florida and beat them. We have some great momentum coming into the game, but that showed not to be true. It was just a lackluster performance from all sides of the ball and special teams. So we'll start with Ashton about your thoughts from last Saturday.
Yeah, Blake, I think like every Razorback fan, I came into the game with high hopes. I think we all had the expectation that perhaps we could find a way to maybe if not make a bowl game, at least make it interesting and get to the point where when we came in and played Missouri here in a week or so, that the stadium would be packed and everybody would be behind these Razorbacks, win or lose. I think there's just a different feeling, right, when you go into a game 5 and 6 with the hopes of making a bowl game, as compared to going into the game this weekend sitting at 3 and 7 with no hopes of anything. I don't know. I was completely disappointed. I didn't see any motivated players. I felt like I watched some film, and there was two plays in particular, where the fumble of Rocket Sanders, which at first glance I didn't think it was a fumble, but it was. But Varkeus Gums was blocking on that play, and of course, if you go back and watch film, he gets blown up nearly every play. And I don't know if it's necessarily his fault. I just don't think that's where he best fits. But he gets blown up, and when Rocket fumbles, Varkeus Gums just turns and watches the defense run down the field and does not chase after him. Just absolutely just gives up on the play. And then there was another play where I think it was Jarquez Hunter or Peyton Thorne, one of the two, they're fighting to get into the end zone. And Landon Jackson, who I would have thought would not be this way, he just watched the play. He didn't pursue or anything. And that was the first time I had seen the Razorbacks all year long give up. And we remember those days, Blake, where they gave up against, when they were under Chad Morris. I didn't see any fight from the Razorbacks.
Yep.
So I don't think even if you win this weekend, who cares? I think that's the mentality of most people right now.
All right, Jason, what's your thoughts?
Obviously, I really didn't get a chance to watch the game. I did happen to catch a few little highlights, but
very, very few of them.
But I mean, just like Ashton said, this team has just quit. Wonder what's going to be like this weekend with no bowl hopes whatsoever. The only thing you're playing for is pride, but my question is how many players in this team actually have enough pride to compete this last two games?
Well, yeah, go ahead. Oh, sorry, Jason.
Well, what I was going to say is, well, maybe we might see Chris Will play a little bit more now. As Pittman said, he's earned a chance to play. Well, let's see it.
Yeah. Blake, what do you do? What do you do, Blake, in a situation where, like, what explanation can you give to the fan base if you're the head coach, right? And we know what the explanations have been. But, like, what explanation can you give to the fan base when you're in game 10, okay? There is no more, well, we just need to get better at it. No, you're game 10. Why do we have a situation where our three running backs have, 11 carries for 6 yards for the whole game?
Yeah.
What?
Just my opinion. Of course, it doesn't mean much. It all stems to the offensive line not being very good. As you know, and everyone else knows, if you don't have a good offensive line, your offense is not going to be very good. That's kind of what Auburn just kind of really just came after the offensive line all game, and you saw what happened.
I'm going to have to, when we start talking about Sam here in a little bit, I'm gonna mention some things like why the only reasons why you keep Sam at this point, right? And I'll explain my reasoning why if we do keep Sam, there's only a few reasons why you do keep him, but we're not. I don't think we're quite there yet. So
yeah, I was just going to go over a few stats real quick. KJ was 10 of 16 for 116 yards, 0 touchdowns, and a QBR of 37.4. Criswell came in and did well. Criswell actually he led the team in rushing. In fact, our two quarterbacks were the top two leading rushers of the game. Our top running back had 3 yards. That was Rashad Dominion and AJ Green. They tied for 3 yards apiece. And Rocket ended up with 0 yards after dominating against Florida. I saw a little quit from Rocket, which was kind of concerning with that injury. I kind of felt like he could have came back, but I think he saw how the game was going and just kind of gave up just a little bit. But defense, they finally played a terrible game. I don't want to harp too much on the defense because they have been the bright spot this year. So they were kind of due for a bad game. I mean, you don't want it to happen. And also, our home fans deserve better. The games we've played at home have been the games we play at our worst. So, but we're just going to crumple up this game and throw it in the trash. So, any other thoughts, Jason?
I mean, to put your point, say, the fans deserve better. I mean, the fans absolutely do deserve better. They spend their hard-earned money and time. Because going to these games is not cheap for these people. And for the product be put on the field to be so bad, you just had to feel sorry for the fans.
Yeah, I used to feel bad about saying, "Oh, don't go to the games," but at this point, if you don't go to the games, the reality is a bunch of these kids are still getting NIL money. I feel like it's come to the point where whether we're good or bad, if you don't fill up the stands, I don't know. I mean, I think the only thing it really affects is perception and perhaps the amount of money you got to make at certain games to pay salaries. NIL has nothing to do with it. Kids are getting NIL regardless, but the salaries of the coaches are being paid. Certain things within the stadium are going to be paid, and you're going to take money from those games and you're going to put it into other aspects of the university. But at this point, I was talking to somebody today, someone who's not even a football fan. They said, I'm going to go to the FIU game and they said, it's like free basically.
Yeah.
There's no excitement. there's no excitement behind going to the game. I mean, who in the world? It's different from going and watching a 6-3 Razorback team or a 6-4 Razorback team go play FIU with the hopes of having an 8-win season. We're going to go play FIU with the hopes of getting to 4 wins. Whoop-de-doo, right? I don't think anybody cares. Most people who know anything about football just don't care. But yeah, let's crumple it up, throw it away, Blake.
Yep.
I agree.
All right, so about the future of Razorback football. Okay, there's a lot of rumors circulating Sunday about Pittman's future, and it's still kind of up in the air on what exactly is going to happen with Sam Pittman. But we're just going to talk a few things over. So I'll ask both of y'all, if you was to ask 100 Razorback fans, how many of them would say that they want Sam Pittman back next year?
30.
I was going to go as low as say 20.
So I mean, you're talking 20 to that's only 20-30%. It's now I know the board met this week and nothing was done, but a lot of them are concerned about money and not they don't want to pay his buyout and all that other stuff. So just what's your future like? What's your outlook on Razorback football, Ashton?
All right, so I have a couple different. Here's my theories. Right, the outlook for Arkansas Razorback football. I know that if what I think is really happening right now is if the only reason why Sam Pittman still has a job is because we can't afford to fire him, then the state of Arkansas Razorback football is in a bad place. If you keep somebody because you can't afford to fire them, that's not a reason to keep them. Okay. Now, the other thing is this. Perhaps the board is sitting there going, okay, if Sam loses to FIU this weekend, we'll fire him. Okay. Well, if Sam loses to FIU this weekend, then you're in an even darker spot than you were before with losing to Auburn. Now you're even worse. You've lost to FIU. But then again, all right, let me ask you this, Blake. You could tell me, I want to ask you your opinion. Do you have more to gain from beating FIU, or do you have more to lose from if you get beat by FIU?
I mean, you have more to gain if you lose, because
what I mean by that is the university. What do you have to gain if you win? If you win, what do you have to gain? Nothing.
Just
there's nothing you have nothing to gain. You won, but it doesn't really count towards anything. But if you lose, what do you stand to gain, or what do you stand to lose? If you lose to FIU, you will lose. I mean, I'm telling you right now, and I see the writing on the wall. You're going to lose so many different recruits this weekend.
Yep.
Because while there's going to be some recruits at the Arkansas FIU game, there's going to be a lot more recruits at these games that these other teams in our conference who are sitting at 8-2, 7-3, 10-0, 9-1. Whereas compared to they're gonna be with those recruits this week, and those coaches are gonna say, "Do you really want to play for the 3-7 Razorbacks?" That's what they're gonna say.
All right, Jason. What's your outlook on the future?
I mean, honestly, if we can't afford his buyout, it's going to be even darker than the Chad Morris era, I believe. I mean, people will quit going to these games. That is going to be a substantial loss of revenue for the school. Football is the top revenue driving sport in any university. And if you cannot get rid of, if you cannot fire them because you cannot afford it, your next seasons are going to be just as bad, because it's not going to get any easier with Texas and Oklahoma joining. Even if he is kept at the end of this season, and all of a sudden he loses, 3 or 4 games early on next season, you can fire him next season, but you know what? You've already lost a whole nother season.
Yeah.
You have to get ahead of it now, cut ties with them, start fresh, So we got the entire off season to get a whole new coaching staff, try to keep some of these recruits, hit the transfer portal. But if you wait, there's nothing good that's going to come out of that.
Yeah, I think to Jason's point. All right, he said if you what you keep him. All right, and I think this is where it's headed. This is my personal opinion. I think it's already headed in the direction that Sam Pittman's here next year. And not only is Sam Pittman here next year, I think Cody Kennedy's here next year too. And I think it'll be an abysmal season next year. Now, when this happens and we fire Sam Pittman next year, not like Jason said, not only do you lose that year, you also, when you hire a new coach, I guarantee you, when we hire a new coach at Arkansas, it ain't going to be like a quick turnaround. Not only will you lose that season, you're going to lose the following season too. So, I mean, now you've lost this season, you've lost next season, then you lost a season right after that. You're going to lose the fan base. In fact, you've already lost most of the fan base. You think I'm going to watch the Razorbacks play FIU this weekend? You've lost your mind. And how many Razorback fans are sitting there thinking that right now? I will not tune in to watch the Razorbacks.
Yeah. So the just a couple Twitter theories out there are that Sam, what they're going to let Sam finish the season and then fire him. That's one theory. Another theory is that they're going to retain him and then get a whole new offensive staff. That's another theory. Another theory is like Ashton said, most everybody's going to come back and we'll just start, try to start fresh. But with Texas A&M and Mississippi State already firing their coaches, it already put you behind already because they're going to find their coaches probably before we will find ours if Sam Pittman was to be let go. So you're already going to get the third best option. Okay. So it's, I know Hunter, he's probably top 5 AD in the nation. He's pretty good at his job, so he's a smart man, but he's going to have to make a bold decision of either to keep him or to let him go. And as Hog fans, we all know what we want. Okay, you can, like I said, you go out on the street and ask any Hog fan, do you want Sam Pittman back? They're probably going to say no.
But I got a question: how much of that is in Yurichek's hands versus the big donor's hands?
Yeah. I want to say Wally Hall from the Democrat Gazette. I could be wrong, and if I am, I apologize. But he said some boosters or the board, they have the money, but they want Gus Malzahn to be the coach, and they're only willing to give up that money for his buyout if Gus Malzahn comes in the coach. Which I'm not the Gus. He's used us twice, so I don't want him back in Arkansas. But
here's the thing. I don't care if Gus Malzahn comes back to Arkansas and coaches. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of that idea, but in reality, is just because the donors want it doesn't mean it's going to happen. Who says that Gus Malzahn? We've already been down this road. Who says that Gus Malzahn truly wants to beat Arkansas? He's already showed us twice that he doesn't want to beat Arkansas. Mm-hmm. So why are and if that's really true, like I said, it could be just a rumor. But if it is true, why do we want to go down that road? I'm not saying it's a bad road to take. He could come in and do really well, or he could come in and do really bad. But I want someone who has had zero ties with Arkansas Razorbacks.
Yeah. I texted Ashton this. I said, imagine if Pittman retired at the end of the 2021 season, where he finished with 9 wins.
Yeah,
Think of how much of a legend he would have been.
So let's look at those. Let's look at those that season, right? That 9-win season. He won, and let's not say he won with true freshmen. Let's not say that. He won with a bunch of super seniors, right? And the following year, you lose those super seniors and it goes down. It gets worse. All right. You go 6-6. And we were fortunate to go 6-6. And then we win the bowl game against a pretty good Kansas team, who, by the way, – you're talking about a Kansas team who has maintained, with that talent, whereas Arkansas returned a bunch of that talent and it's just gone downhill. So what does that sound like to you? It sounds like player development. And then you got this year. So this year you're sitting at 3-7. You're regressing. Do you really believe that we're going to progress next year? At this point, if people really believe that half of our team's not hitting the portal, they're fooling themselves. Anybody who's worth a dang is going to the portal. They're not going to stay here with Arkansas, knowing that Sam Pittman's probably just a dead man walking.
Yeah. But hey, where else can you watch the Polar Express? At halftime.
Yeah, is that? Yeah. What's your favorite Christmas movie?
I like Christmas Vacation, Blake. I don't think you can go wrong with Uncle Eddie and Clark, the Griswolds. Solid, but yeah, I mean, I think Coach Pittman, number one, I think Coach Pittman lied. Of course, I think he had to lie. You're not going to go on there and say, "Oh, I knew that TV was in there. I knew they were watching that movie." Right? He's not going to do that. So you have to say, "Oh, I didn't even know there was a TV in there." Yeah, I've been here for 4 years. Never knew there was a TV in there. Yeah, you did. Okay. And you also know that ain't nobody paying attention to those walk-ons in that room. Brother, when we traveled and we brought kids who we know weren't even going to get in the game, you know what? We didn't say, okay, I want you to go stand in that corner away from everybody else. I mean, you knew they weren't going to play, and it was understood. These kids don't play. They're probably never going to have the ability to play. But we didn't say, okay, I want you to go stand over there. You go stand over there, so I can talk to these guys. No, everybody stood where you could hear. What do you mean you have a whole separate locker room for kids? And they say, and then I listen to Rick Schaefer or someone on the radio defend them. Well, they just don't have, they don't let them dress out. And then I was thinking to myself, yeah, they were completely dressed out.
They had shoulder pads on, everything.
So I think everybody is with media is trying to defend Sam Pittman so hard right now. When they say, well, we let those guys just be there, we don't let them dress out. That was a lie because they were standing there with a helmet, they were standing there in pads with pants, everything. So I'm so over it at this point.
Mm-hmm. When the season ends, I'm going to go back and look at each of his post-game pressers and count how many times he says the word "I don't know."
Or oh man, it's either I don't know or this favorite phrase of mine: things of that nature.
Yeah, things of that nature. Things of that nature. I don't know.
Or how about how many times you said us as coaches need to do better?
Yep.
I want to start by saying how great that or whatever. How he always starts every press conference with a lot of credit goes to that team. Yeah, because you got your butt kicked.
Or we've had a great week of practice, but
oh man, if I hear another, we've had a great week of practice. I don't even know why we did bad. We had a great week of practice leading up to this. Buddy, you're playing against the same guys who are getting their butts kicked. Of course, you had a great week of practice.
Yep. All right. Well, we're gonna move on to Ashton. Ashton's real involved. He loves the portal and he loves recruiting. So he's got some stats piled up from our transfers that transferred out of the program and kind of just comparing them to the numbers that they seeing if it was better or for worse.
So what we got here, Blake, it's a list of about 10 names or so, and most of the numbers are fairly the same as they were when they were at Arkansas, or they are for the most part worse. So first person we got is Warren Thompson. He was a receiver and he had 12 receptions at Arkansas last year for 178 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now we thought that he was going to be done with football, and then out of nowhere he says, "I'm going to TCU," and this year he's been a little bit better. He has 19 receptions for about 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. So there's one name. He's about a big receiver, about 6'4", and he's also with Kendall Briles down there at TCU. So better year. Trey Knox. And I think if Trey Knox would have stayed at Arkansas, he would have had a massive year this year. Even with a losing team, he would have had a massive year. 26 receptions, 296 yards, 5 touchdowns with Arkansas last year. With South Carolina this year, he's got 32 receptions for 277 yards and 2 touchdowns. And South Carolina is very similar to the way Arkansas is this year. Injuries, poor coaching decisions, and just flat out bad offensive line play. So next one, Ketron Jackson. He's at Baylor. He had 16 receptions for 277 yards and 3 touchdowns last year for Arkansas. This year, more receptions at 24 and yards at 392, but 0 touchdowns. So, better, worse. It depends on how you look at it. Miles Slusher. Oh, and this is where it kind of gets worse. Miles Slusher had 28 tackles, 1 pass defended, and 2 sacks last year for Arkansas. This year for Colorado, 17 tackles, 1 pass defended, and 1 sack, and he recorded, I think, 0 stats last game for Colorado. Okay. As I thought was going to happen for him, worse. That's what I thought would happen. This next player, I don't even know if you could say he's gotten better or he's gotten worse as much as he just hasn't done anything. Jalen Catalon for Texas. Arkansas, he had 8 tackles last year. Of course, he had injuries. This year, he's dealt yet again with injuries. 15 tackles and 1 forced fumble. That's it. Boy, at one point in time, we thought that he was going to be the savior of Arkansas's defense. And I don't understand the reason behind transferring to Texas other than they just win.
Well, I did. Mike Irwin came out with something. He said Catalan found out Malik Hornsby was getting paid more NIL money and got upset, so that's why he transferred out.
Okay, well, it is what it is then. Simeon Blair. 2 of these next 4 names have been the best in the transfer. Simeon Blair has actually done really well for Memphis. His stats are right now sitting at 50 tackles, 4 passes defended, 1 forced fumble, and 1 interception. And I would say he's been pretty solid for a Memphis team that's, I think, 8-2.
Yeah.
Wes does a lot with Memphis, and he will be the first to brag on Simeon Blair and how well he's done. And remember, he was real big for us too. He had 73 tackles for us, so we miss him a lot. I would definitely take him back in a heartbeat. Malik Hornsby. The man who was insistent that he was a quarterback and not a receiver. Last year at Arkansas, had 268 yards passing, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. This year at Texas State, he's got a whopping 83 yards passing, no touchdowns, and an interception. What a transfer. We all said that from the very beginning, right, Blake? That Hornsby was not a quarterback and he would not play anywhere else, and we were right.
Yeah.
And we're not college coaches. We don't evaluate kids like that. But we knew from the very beginning, like, him leaving made no sense. Jalen St. John, who was an offensive lineman, and he did not have any starts for Arkansas, didn't play very much, but he's had 5 starts for UNLV, a very good UNLV team with Barry Odom. So I would say probably improved for sure. Yep. And then the last one kind of goes along with Simeon Blair as far as improving. Jordan Dominic. He has 39 tackles this year and 5 sacks, while for Colorado. And last year he had 34 tackles, 7.5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. So he's pretty much maintained his level of ability for Colorado. So him and Blair are my 2 top transfers.
Yeah. So I know there's 2 games left, but it's nice to just kind of look and kind of see if it was a good decision or a bad decision. So,
but Blake, I sometimes, I do a little preaching on the side, and one of the things I talk about quite often is people do things or make decisions sometimes because what they think in their mind, that the grass is greener on the other side. And a lot of these kids that are hitting the portal, what they're finding? They're finding it's not. The grass is not always greener on the other side.
Yep. So. Good stuff right there. We're going to go to basketball, and then in probably about 12 minutes, Dave Shumate from Mock 10 Sports will join us. So I'm going to play a clip, Jason, and then I want to get your thoughts on it. If this thing will work.
They take 5. So defending without fouling, A+. Taking care of the basketball. I don't know if I've ever had a team only have 4 turnovers against a high steal team, against a team that plays 4 guards at a time and has great quickness. So taking care of the ball, A+. Defensive rebounding, double F. Transition defense, triple F. Guarding the 3, there's no grade. It was so bad. So some good and some very poor.
All right, Jason.
I love it, man.
What do you think about Muss's grading scale there?
It's unique with the double F, but I agree with everything he said. I mean, they was shooting threes at will, and they were hitting their 3-point shots, and that was what was keeping them in the game till the very end of it. We could not get any sort of rebound whatsoever. It's just almost like this team just kind of phoned it in, was like, hey, we know we're better than this team. And, they just didn't play with pretty good attitude with it.
Yeah, and that was after the Monday night's game against Old Dominion. Where was it, 86-77 with Arkansas winning. So, Ashton, what's some quick basketball thoughts about those two games? The Friday game against Gardner-Webb, and then Monday's game against Old Dominion.
Yeah, first thing I want to say is that despite what happens this year with basketball, and there's gonna be ups and downs. It's just natural when you play that many games. And I know I'm saying that now. I'm gonna be probably frustrated at some point during the season. It is what it is, and you're gonna have to just put up with me, and you're gonna have to talk me down off the ledge. But the thing I love about Musselman, and I respect Musselman, because when poor Blake, whenever I coached, Blake would almost have to get me to chill out and calm down, because I just get so fired up. And sometimes I get fired up with officials. Sometimes I get fired up with kids. And the thing I love about Musselman is he will get fired up with officials, but he will jump on one of his kids when they deserve it. It's not uncalled for. It's like when they deserve to have their tail jump. It is, and it's not just jumping them to jump them. He lays into him, but it's constructive. Double F, he's right. Triple F, he's right. The 3-point defense, non-existent. He's right. But you know what? He said we will work on that. We will get it fixed. It's not we'll see about getting it. We will get it fixed. This is why I'm so glad that Arkansas fans, even though it's been an abysmal football season, have Musselman and this team to turn to, because his kids are just battle tested. They don't give up, and you see the kids take on the personality of the coach. Trevon Brazil, he is a dude that just gets fired up. Devo gets fired. Now Devo does some dumb things. It gets dumb technicals. It is what it is, like I said. But do you see any fire from Sam Pittman? No. And so I'm so glad that this basketball team that's led by Muss has been going, and it's just been trending upwards every single year since he's got here. But I will say this, Blake, and along with what Jason said and what Coach Muss said, you play like that against a better team, you'll get beat.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Pittman, Pittman should have handed out a bunch of triple Fs this year. So, but the thing is, you don't see him. Musselman didn't call. He just said we didn't do this well. He didn't call out certain players. Now the players know, but he didn't publicly say,
Right. Now here's the thing, Blake. But he doesn't have to call out the names, but I'm going to tell you this: if he did call out the names, I feel like it would be a justifiable. But he would not call them out to the point where he's saying that they can't. He's calling them out because they can't do the job. He's going to call them out because he knows that they can do better. Yeah. And then he's also going to probably follow it up with saying, I like what they're doing here, but I don't like what they're doing here. And that's okay. It's okay to hold someone accountable. I just haven't seen any accountability on the other side of the coin, sports-wise, in Fayetteville this season. But Musselman, we're at 3 games in? Mm-hmm. We're 3 games in, Blake. He's already handing out triple Fs.
I mean, you could say one thing about him through those little post-game conferences, that he does have passion. On the flip side of that, you watch a football post-game conference, he looks so defeated.
Oh man, he looks
Yeah.
tired.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
it's a night and
I
day.
don't know. Yeah, I mean, he says I don't know, and Muss is handing out grades. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
it's just,
I'd like to see Coach Pitt hand out some grades. Boarding report cards, they ain't being hung on no fridges. I can promise you that.
but Hogs play tomorrow night at 7 o'clock against UNC Greensboro. Now, last year this team led Arkansas at the half. I think it was a single-digit win. This is the game Brazil actually got hurt in. So I know Brazil. He's not looking for revenge, but he's looking to play probably at least play the whole game. Now Old Dominion, they're probably going to be in contention for their conference. So something bad. And then this UNC Greensboro team coming in is pretty tough too. If you notice the non-conference schedule, each game just gets a little bit tougher, and then
Yeah, I thought the Old Dominion game was interesting. Old Dominion, I think that's Sun Belt, if I'm not mistaken, but historically they've been a sneaky competitive team, not bad by any means. And UNC Greensboro is going to be a team that can probably, if I had to bet, could shoot the lights out.
Well, if they're coming into Bud Walton, yes, they will be able to shoot.
Yeah, for some reason, it never fails. A team will come into Bud Walton and shoot lights out. It never fails.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, what's just one thing besides a win that you are looking for tomorrow night?
For me, I'd like to see us close out to the perimeter better. And I'd like to see it better than we had against Old Dominion. And then the other thing is, we know that Mekhi Mitchell can rebound. I'm kind of curious to see who else is going to step up in the post. I'm not real convinced yet with Jalen Graham. I know he's got it in him. I know Bay Fall he's lanky, he's all over the place, but he's just like out of control when you watch him play. So he's not quite development wise, he's not there yet. And I'd like to see us take care of the basketball. Let's just play good basketball, not sloppy. Just play good, solid, fundamental Razorback basketball. Quick. Don't get me wrong. You can play quick, but you can play under control. So that's what I want to see.
I'd like them to improve on what Muss they talked about at the end of that game. You just want to see improvements from them. You want to have a good game. We just want to continue to gel as a team. The quicker you can gel, the better off you're going to be when conference play starts in January.
Yep. Yeah, what I want to see is just Monday we got it to like a 14-point lead, and then they got it back down to 8 or 9. So if we do get to a 14, 15-point lead, I would like to see us stretch it out some.
The one thing I would like to see though is Abergast to come in at the end of the game, because it's in hand.
Yes. If he's coming in, we know for sure that the Hogs have a victory, and the students get French fries or Chick-fil-A nuggets or whatever they hand out up there in Fayetteville. Now I'll be up there Friday night in Fayetteville, but I'll be at Elkins High School, so
you got old Dizzy Dean, do you?
Dizzy Dean, Monticello Billies versus Dizzy Dean, yes sir. But all right, we'll have Dave Shumate joining us here shortly. Again, follow Dave at Mach10 Sports on Twitter. There he is.
What's up, guys? How's it going in Central State?
Hey, man. How you doing, Dave?
It's basketball season for sure.
Basketball season.
Officially now.
Yeah.
No, I'm fired up. Hell, next week's my favorite week of the year.
Oh, Feast Week, baby.
Feast Week, and then the combo, just like the rivalry weekend in college football, as y'all know. So that'll be – is what you got – is Arkansas – no. Does Arkansas play on Friday next week in basketball with the football game?
Let me see.
Does it depend on if we win? I
know. Yeah, because Arkansas is what, in Atlanta, so
Yeah.
Hell, I'm looking forward to that Arkansas potential
Yeah.
Memphis game in the second round.
Yeah.
Oh,
we
yeah.
got Stanford first, and then hopefully Memphis. So we'll see. But all right. So you've I think Ashton's going to ask this question, but give the folks some background information. You've actually worked at Texas A&M, so so you know probably a lot more than most people. So
For
I'll let,
2 years. I worked there
yeah.
in 17. I got there right before the season with someone. Then we never signed a class. And then I got retained on Jimbo. So I was with Jimbo for a year and a half.
Okay.
So along, knowing that, obviously, you probably know where this is going. Like, what are your thoughts, right? What are your thoughts on the firing of Jimbo? And like, where does A&M theoretically or literally, where do they go from here?
Well, it's funny you bring that up. I was going to talk about that on my show tonight at 7, where they should go.
Oh.
But first, with Jimbo, I first want to say he is like a damn encyclopedia when it comes to football. So I want to preface it, what I'm about to say, with like some positive stuff about like he's got like a Rolodex of players he can go back on. And I think that's good from an evaluation standpoint because you know what you're supposed to be looking at. But hell, I was driving in, talking to one of my buddies who worked there, who still works there. Me and him were just talking because y'all may have read it. There was that ESPN article that just literally came out about kind of like interviewed some, quote unquote, unnamed sources, whether it's a staff member, former players, who talk about his time there.
Right.
Y'all go read it. I mean, it does hit like hammer on the head. His thing is just there was no structure, organization from the top down. Like he never strictly defined people's roles. And I always think about that documentary with like Nick Saban and Bill Belichick. I think they did with it on HBO a couple years ago. And it was just talking about how Saban, every time I feel like Belichick's brought up to him, he always just talks about how he's like, Bill, yeah, your X's and O's from a defensive standpoint. But the thing that was always impressive to me about my time with you in Cleveland was like how you just defined everybody's roles and there was no gray areas. Like you knew exactly what you're supposed to do this day. This person wasn't coming into my lane, which is like, I feel like in a lot of organizations and especially college football, and with Jimbo, A&M was one of them. And I feel like it's more spread out across college football than people think, is a lot of these coaches don't define people's roles. And I think it's where Jimbo was. And he also wanted to make every decision in the building, which is like, dude, you don't have enough time in the day. You're trying to call the offense at that time. You're trying to make personnel decisions. You're trying to make op schedules. And then the thing I always thought it was nuts, he was just so stubborn. We always left on road games on Thursday night. So like we'd practice, eat, go get on a plane, and we would get to wherever it is. If we're going to play at Auburn and Montgomery, I think when we always played Arkansas and Arlington when we were there. So we'd stay in Dallas. You'd bus to Dallas, but you got there at like midnight on Thursday. And his theory was he just started it when he was at Florida State. But the kids did academic tutoring on Friday morning. They did all their academic stuff. But it was a lot of sitting around, and it's why he went 0-9 against – I think it's part of it is he went 0-9 against top 25 teams on the road. And I think you talk to people that are still there, they're still doing that. And I just think you didn't ever win many road games, but you never adjusted. And you had to have known those stats, or if you didn't, I think that's your fault too if you didn't go kind of do your own self-inventory, find out some quality control stuff from a strength and weakness standpoint. But yeah, it's just he refused to adapt, refused to change. And I think a little bit of it was, he won a national championship. He was kind of about to start getting ran out of Florida State a little bit. And I was all for the hire initially. But it was almost like he got that big contract, and it was kind of just like, this guy didn't have really a lot. Like, I don't know if he walked in every day, and maybe he didn't even know it in his head, but like wasn't extremely hungry because he's like, I've already won a national championship. If I get fired, I'm getting all this money. And I don't think he was obviously thinking about that, but just as a human being, like that have to come across your mind. But the main thing I would say just from a day-to-day is just not letting the people you hired to get put in charge, whether it's in operations, personnel, training room, strength and conditioning, like you wouldn't let them do their job. You always made the decision when it's like, you're like, coach, you're the head coach. It's your program. We'll do whatever you want to do. But like, you're not the expert in this field. No offense. It's just, it is what it is. You need to trust the people you hired. He wanted to make all the decisions. And I think at the end of the day, like no one's an expert in everything. There's not a person on this earth that's an expert in everything. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. And I think his ego and just inability to adapt is what ultimately sunk the ship.
So, I think you make a great point. I don't think that is even just limited, right, to the college football. That's just a life thing. There's so many people who like to just micromanage, and tell me what you're supposed. What's your job? But this is how you can do your job better. But that's not. I don't know as much as you do about your job. If you bring me on, right? If I bring someone on, or you bring me on to do a job, you brought me on because you trust me to be able to do that job. And so I could definitely see that being a problem. I've seen that as as a problem as a coach before.
Yeah,
where someone said, "Hey, this is what your job is, but I'm also going to come and tell you how to do your job." If you tell me, and you kind of made the point, but if you tell me this is what I want to see, I'm going to make sure it gets done. But if you're constantly looking over my shoulder, constantly telling the kids or whatever around me how I can do this better, or this is how it's supposed to be done, you're not going to have any consistency. You're probably not going to have fluidity as a program. And I bet that. I mean, I could see that being a huge problem. So
yeah, it would get to the point a little bit, I think, where people wouldn't know who was in charge in certain departments, because you start, no one knows any defined roles or the responsibilities. You start getting a bunch of independent contractors who start kind of doing their own thing. And it's like right now, they fired their personnel. It's a great example. They fired their personnel guy right before the season, and he never rehired it. So they have a bunch of 5 to 6 people in that recruiting department right now. They're just kind of, we don't know what we're supposed to be doing because no one clearly defined it. And we don't have anybody who runs the department right now. So, yeah, I would just really say overall, though, just his ability, like we talked about, is just inability to adapt. And his ego let him get in the way of just he felt like he was smart enough to make all the decisions when it's like, dude, it's not actually a strength if you could come in here and be like, look, I don't have all the answers, guys. I know I've had success at places I've been, but I don't have all the answers from hey, how much are our kids how much are they supposed to be sleeping when we go on these road trips? And so but he would pretend like he knew all the answers from that stuff. And again, I owe him a lot. He's a great guy, retained me. Real down to earth, dude. You'd love to have a beer and go hunting with Jimbo Fisher. I mean, it'd be awesome. Again, and he's a football encyclopedia, dude. I mean, he's a better offensive mind than people give him credit for, from the bashing standpoint. He's just the dude so stubborn. It's a very hot. It may, as y'all know, guys, the skill position guys on the outside of wide receiver aren't splitting atoms here or sending rockets for NASA. They're not the smartest human beings from top to bottom. I don't want to stereotype all of them, but you put a ton on those receivers in that offense from a standpoint. And it's in today's society with Gen Z is the majority of the kids you're dealing with now, they don't have that ability to sit there really for the most part. Again, not trying to stereotype the whole generation, but they lose focus. Your meetings can't be 2.5 hours long anymore. You can't put these choice routes on these kids. So you're limiting your best players on the sideline just because you won't play them because they don't know the playbook. So it's yeah, they aren't executing. I feel like that was his classic line, wasn't it? Every press conference. I think we're there. We're just not executing. I feel like that. Yeah. I mean, he would say that every Sunday staff meeting after a loss. He'd be like, guys, we're a player or two away from, being right there undefeated. It's well, yeah, coach, but we have 3 or 4 losses. What are you trying to say? We're the best 3 or 4 loss team in the country. No one gives a shit.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that. I think me and Blake have been closer to a situation like that than you may realize, Dave. Where
I bet a lot of people even hadn't worked in football before. It's oh yeah, I have a boss like that.
We kind of worked with someone who was. I would call him a genius mind at football, but there wasn't anything you could tell him that he didn't already know.
Yeah.
But I won't go any further into that, but just real quick, Dave, give me 2 names. Give me 2 names of guys that would theoretically could be Texas A&M's next head coach.
Who it could be or who I would hire.
All right, let's go with who you would hire just real quick.
Who I would hire? Dude, they won't do it because they don't like him just because of the shots. Dude, I honestly think – I don't know if this guy would go win a national championship, but I think Lane Kiffin can make the playoffs there 3 out of 5 years just with it expanding to 12 teams. I think they would recruit Texas from a skill standpoint unbelievably well if he was there, especially from a portal standpoint. I think he would consistently win 9 to 10 games there. Now, championship, I don't know if he has what's the best, the true foundation. He has his own issues too, as a leader of a CEO of a big organization like Ole Miss, wherever he's at. But I don't know if they would consistently win championships, but I think he can consistently get them there. I think Mike Elko, honestly, the DC, I was there with him too. He was the DC the first 3 years with Jimbo at A&M. So I worked with him there. He's the exact opposite of Jimbo. He used to get frustrated in staff meetings because we'd be sitting there watching recruits, and Jimbo's thing in recruiting was he'd ask every coach around the table what they thought about every kid we watch. So he'd be asking Elko, who y'all know is the DC, about what he thinks about a quarterback. And Elko's sitting here dude, I don't give I like the exercise, but it's kind of at some point we would be sitting in 3-hour-long meetings, and the defense coordinator is a very organized, smart guy. I think some people are scared about his ability to recruit, but I think in today's time with NIL, A&M as much resources as anybody, I think a little bit it takes care of itself with that. I think he's smart enough, kind of the opposite of Jimbo. He's aware enough to be like, you know what, like I am not probably the best guy to put in front of certain type of families and stuff, but I'm smart enough to go hire those type of people to help us be successful. And then with the collective and stuff, the 12-man foundation, so like, they'll get kids. I mean, I feel like A&M has just as much as anyone else in the country if you take away the championships. And I'd say in today's time, I don't think kids really care as much. I wouldn't say all of them, but I don't think it's as like, I'm going to college to go win a national championship. It's usually, hey, what can you do for NIL and how do you get me to the NFL? It's not really about winning championships as much as it used to be. But I would say those two guys. I would say Lane Kiffin, even though that won't happen because they won't be able to swallow their pride about that. And I think Elko, I mean, I would go hire Dan Lanning, but I don't think they can afford his buyout. I mean, I think he'd be the no-brainer, but I just think that's very unrealistic. But you could also say my pick with Lane Kiffin's very unrealistic. But my top two, I would go probably Dan Lanning, then Lane Kiffin if I'm just all things are even. But then take away Lanning, I'd probably still keep Kiffin in there because I think Kiffin would walk from Oxford to College Station if he got offered the job. And then I would go probably Mike Elko after that. And I like Kalen DeBoer, the guy at Washington too. It's just he just has only been a West Coast guy, so that'll be interesting.
All right, Jason, you're up, brother.
Well, my question is, do you feel like the NIL is kind of ruining college sports?
I think in theory, y'all tell me. I think in theory, everyone's somewhat for like name, image, likeness. Like what with Bryce Young and Caleb Williams on the Dr. Pepper commercial. I don't think any of the four of us give a crap if Bryce Young or Caleb Williams makes money off Dr. Pepper. If they're that good and they're essentially you got it yourself, you're that good, you came back and they want to pay. I don't think anybody's like, he doesn't deserve that money from Dr. Pepper. What the hell? I'm not watching now because he gets paid money to go be on Dr. Pepper. It's like, I think, or it's like, hey, they're making the Dave Shumate hamburger at Rammer Jammer over there. As many, Dave gets 5% of the hamburger sold over there. I really don't think most people are kind of for that. I think people just don't like what it is. The pay for play is what really pisses people off. I think it's kind of like a lot of these teams are playing with one hand tied behind their back. Like Ole Miss, I think Ole Miss is very structured from their NIL stuff. And they think their guy who runs their collective, Walker Jones, does a fantastic job organizing that through the sports. But again, they only have so much money to go around. They do a good job organizationally. But I think it's really just the pay for play ruins the sport. I don't think necessarily just the core value. And y'all tell me if I'm wrong. I don't want to put words in y'all's mouth. I don't think any of us really care if they get paid to go be on a Dr. Pepper commercial. Nobody really cares. I mean, good for you, dude. If your value's that high, Dr. Pepper thinks they want to put you on the front and cover of their college football season. That's awesome, dude. You did that yourself. They're not just putting me on there. Just nobody knew the hell I was. But the pay for play is where it kind of gets, and really the most annoying thing when I was in it was kids that would come up that had no business being like, yeah, he wants to know what NIL is. It's like, dude, you didn't even play at your last school. What do you mean NIL?
Yeah, well, they had a kind of a report / rumor come out that one of our players last year had transferred because there was another player making more NIL money than he thought he should, making more NIL money than him, and so he left to another school that was paying more NIL money.
I don't know this, but they were saying Alabama's. I've kind of noticed this one coming out with Jalen Milroe taking over now. I think Ty Simpson was kind of the one with the bigger NIL stuff in that quarterback room. Now I've noticed really in the past like really probably since Alabama played Arkansas. Yeah, I think maybe it's been all fall, but I've noticed Jalen Milroe every Thursday now is on most Alabama sports radio stations for like a 20-30 minute segment every week and gets paid for it. So I don't know if they kind of went at some point like, all right, he's the starting quarterback. Somebody's got to go get him something. Like, just like if he just shows up in these interviews, we'll pay him. But I've noticed, I was like, I mean, that's why I was like, they fully did not anticipate him being the guy, I think, this year. But yeah, I think Ty Simpson probably got a lot of that stuff up front. But those are the ones that annoy. It's like kind of like Spencer Sanders sitting here at Ole Miss. I mean, Ole Miss has all their NIL money invested in 3 players in football: Judkins, Dart, and then Spencer Sanders, who just sits on the bench, makes like $800,000 a year.
Yeah. See, in terms of like Milroe going on those, my thought would be that those radio stations have thought to themselves, maybe not necessarily we got to get him money. It's probably more or less no one wants to listen to Ty Simpson because Ty Simpson's not the
they
starting
wouldn't get
quarterback.
him on there. But you're right. I mean, and Jalen Milroe's a pretty well-spoken kid now. He's got a good personality. Like, yeah, he's fun to get on. I just bet at some point, I bet this like, yeah, we got to start getting this guy something.
Yeah, that's right.
He's the lowest paid guy in our quarterback room, and he's
the best
starting quarterback has been coming on here lately.
Yeah. You're right. I think you're like spot on. I don't even care. Like I could care less about NIL.
Yeah.
Just like you said, I don't think Jason cares about NIL. I don't think Blake cares, but I don't think that your average fan cares about NIL. I think what bothers fans is kind of sort of what you're saying is like you look up and like Arkansas sitting at 3-7, and you got a kid who's like, I want NIL money. And like, why? What do you need NIL money for? You're 3-7. You're not a winning product on the field.
Yeah.
What makes you think you deserve this amount of money? I think some people would disagree with me, like KJ Jefferson. Why does KJ's had a terrible season, and I don't think it's necessarily all his fault. But and then that whole offensive line is who are they represented by, Blake? Someone in Arkansas represents them, and I'm thinking to myself,
the barbecue place.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and they're absolutely terrible. So it's just those are the things.
Honestly, dude, me and my boss talk about it, and he used to be over recruiting in Alabama, and we talk about it. I think a lot of the NIL pay-for-play stuff would stop if you went back and changed some of the transfer rules, where it was the old one, where it's like, yeah, you can transfer, but you lose a year of eligibility. Like, I think that would change a lot. I think a lot of the fans, I mean, nobody stops watching college football, but I do think a lot of fans get frustrated when they don't. It's tough to get familiar with your roster like you used to. As you know, like every roster is kind of like, who is this transfer we got back here? Like hell, LSU's whole secondary took portal kids. Like I think your casual fan, you could lose a little more because it's like, I don't even know who half our guys are anymore. They leave, or for a lot of schools, they leave or have a new starter, where I don't get to see the kid grow from a freshman all the way through being a senior anymore.
Yeah, I was thinking about like Trey Biddy the other day. I think it's funny, like people who deal with sports. Trey Biddy probably knew more about the offensive line from Auburn than your average Auburn fan, considering that basically their entire offensive line was built on transfers, and not we're not talking like transfer from USC, transfer from Oklahoma. We're talking transfer Western Kentucky.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
You're like the seventh guy at Duke. Like the guy that's just barely getting some reps at Duke, but wants to start full time. Yeah, you're right. Auburn's getting a bunch of dudes that, yeah, you're right. They had the kid, you're right. Who was it? The Western Kentucky kid. They had another group of 5. Was a kid from North Texas?
Yeah, it was like, I think their tight end was a tight end from FIU who we played.
Yeah, Rivaldo. Yeah, Fairway. Rivaldo Fairway.
Dominating us. But like if you're the average Auburn fan, like you said, you don't know.
You don't know any of those guys. Well, you're right. You make a good point. If you're an average Auburn fan, both your quarterbacks are transfers. Right. All your receivers are transfers. Your tight ends transfer. 4 out of your 5 starters are transfers. It's like you said, the only guy I know we signed out of high school is Jarquez Hunter.
Right, and he wasn't even like a highly recruited running back. He was a 3-star who's just developed and become a decent pretty good little running back. But Peyton Thorne, Michigan State, Robbie Ashford. I don't even know where Ashford's from.
Oregon. He's from Birmingham, but he went to Oregon.
So there you go. Of course, you got us, Arkansas fans, who we basically know where everybody came from. But the transfer portal, we got a lot of dudes on that defense out of the portal. So just NIL, it's going to be ever evolving. It seems like from here till the end of time. So we'll see.
Yep.
All right, just real quick, give us your. I'm going to switch to basketball real quick. Give us your top 3 SEC teams so far.
Ooh, top 3 SEC teams. Yeah. Let's go. I'm going to go Tennessee, Arkansas, and call me crazy. But I'm going to go Kentucky. I was actually impressed in their loss the other night. I think they should have won that game, and they're missing 3 guys in their front court. I think they're only going to get better with the experience. I was actually those Kentucky and Auburn were the 2 teams I know they've lost early, but I was kind of like, yeah, like I think they're going to be easy tournament team. Like Auburn, I mean, they were at 5 with 3 minutes left against Baylor. They should have won that game. Their backcourt looks fine. I think they have one of the deeper front courts. I would maybe put A&M and then Auburn and then Alabama probably after that. But top 3, I would definitely go Tennessee, Arkansas, and I'd probably stick with my preseason prediction right now, even though they just lost. But I would still go with probably Kentucky.
Yep. Well,
All right, boys.
all right.
I'm gonna leave y'all to it. I gotta go. Gotta go watch the old niece play a championship volleyball game this evening. I gotta go be a decent uncle. Okay.
Have fun, brother.
And Dave, has your wife given birth yet?
Dude, it's any day. Her water could be breaking right now as we speak, or at the latest. We went to the appointment 2 days ago. Latest, they're going to induce her on Monday night. So can't be past Monday night.
Well, lots of prayers y'all's way, and
appreciate it.
Happy for y'all.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, man. Y'all be good.
See you next time.
Bye.
Yep. All right. So Ashton had to leave, but let's go. We had a question last week, so it kind of ties in. How safe is Calipari at Kentucky? Because you know the fans are going to start getting kind of mad.
It'd be interesting to see, like, if he doesn't make it past the first weekend again this year. Like, what does that do? I'm with you. I don't feel confident enough in answering this. I don't know how safe is he. I do think he's got to get past the first round. I don't think they fire him this year, though. I mean, I think it's one of those things he'd probably just leave on his own. Don't y'all think at that point? Like, it kind of be like a mutual kind of departing with him and their AD?
Yeah, that way. Because I'm sure, I don't know his contract, but I'm sure his buyout's pretty large.
That's what I'm saying. It's almost like I think they'd have to be – and I actually think they're going to end up being pretty good this year. So I don't know if this year gets him fired. I mean, basketball is so weird. Though. So year to year. I'd probably say he's got another 2 or 3 years left in him, but I feel like it is always kind of like feels like that hot seat's going to catch up to him at some point. I mean, hell, he's been there now for 13 years?
Yeah, a long time.
He's won one championship in 2012.
Yeah, I mean, he hadn't been to a Final Four since 14. Hell, I mean, it's not even the Final Four stat. The worst stat he has is they haven't been past the first weekend since 2018.
Yeah. It's been going on 6 years, 5 years. Yeah.
And, he has a quote unquote lifetime contract with them. So, they got to be expecting more out of them.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm with you. You'd have to be a little bit disappointed for sure. Especially you'd be really disappointed from like his team 2 years ago when they lost to St. Peter's in the first round. That stuff is just like, man, we can't be losing to St. Peter's in the first round, man. Come on. Like, they were good. I mean, y'all saw it. I mean, y'all watch college basketball. Like, I mean, they were good all regular season. It was just, I forget who they would have been matched up with in the second round that year. I forgot what, because they were Kentucky was a 2 seed that year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I can't remember who they were matched up with in the second round.
Yeah. As Arkansas fans, we like to, people outside the state of Arkansas and Kentucky probably don't see it as a huge basketball rival, but it's big time.
Well, you feel like a lot of Arkansas people don't like Nate Oates.
Oh, I know they don't.
Yeah, him and Muss don't get along.
We come to Arkansas this year because it was.
Dude, Arkansas always. Me and my Alabama buddies laugh about that. Arkansas always gets the short end of the stick in that scheduling. Like Alabama hasn't only traveled to Fayetteville just when they play one time in years. It's always like either they play twice or if they play once, it's always in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah. And especially this year is going to, we were both fighting for Nelson.
Grant Nelson,
for him to transfer in this battle between Bama and Arkansas, and ended up.
Dude, I was at that game. I was at that game in Tuscaloosa last year. Arkansas should have won that game.
Yeah, that was about the time. That was about the time we was turning it around.
Yeah.
To make our run, and it just didn't work out. But
no, even the game last year in Fayetteville was close until the last 4 minutes.
Yeah, they went on a 3-point.
Yeah, Brandon Miller went on hit 3 threes in a row to essentially put it away. Yeah, I mean, it was like a 3-point game with 4 minutes left. And then I think, it was Clowney, I think, hit a corner 3, and then Miller hit 2 threes.
After that under 4 timeout, it was like a 12-0 run.
That's kind of like an under-the-radar SEC rivalry you wouldn't know about. But unless you keep up with SEC basketball like y'all do, too, you wouldn't know Muss and Oates don't really like each other.
Oh, yeah, they hate each other. And, and they're always fighting over the same recruits and transfers.
Yeah.
So
always in for it. It was Alabama and Arkansas for Nick Smith, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But as always, Dave, it's a good time for you to join the Hogs Happy Hour.
I appreciate y'all having me, fellas.
Yes, sir. Follow him on Twitter at Mach10 Sports, and we'll see you next time, Dave.
Appreciate it, fellas. Look forward to it.
Sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, that's Dave Shumate from Mach 10 Sports. So, we went hour and 8 minutes. a good time. But anyways, again, we'll talk a little bit about FIU. We're like a 29.5 point favorite. So, I'm personally not going to watch the game just because I'll be in Little Rock and not near TV. So if I was near TV, I would check in on it, but I would not just sit down and watch it.
More than likely, I'll have it playing in the background, just kind of
Background.
keep up a little bit.
Background noise.
It's kind of like when you watch baseball. You don't really watch baseball.
Yeah.
You just kind of have it in the background, listening.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have my alerts on my phone, but that's about it. All right. Next week, next Friday, not a Saturday. Next Friday we play Missouri, and Missouri's actually planning a stripe out at our state.
That's funny.
Yep, at our stadium, planning a stripe out. So that's the state of Razorback football. Is the opposing team is planning to have a stripe out. So.
Especially when that opposing team normally plays in a high school level stadium.
Yeah. yes. They're probably excited to come to Razorback Stadium.
Well, is this the last year that it's going to be home and home? Does it go to the Arrowhead after this?
I know it's going to Arrowhead soon. I don't know if it's one more year or what, but just add that to the list of neutral site games that we have signed on to play in. We got Little Rock, we had
Dallas.
World, Dallas, and now we got Arrowhead Stadium. So but the way we've looked at home this year, I can probably understand why we don't want to play at home. So. All right, any closing thoughts before we get off of here?
No. Hopefully football team can take care of business Saturday. They should. If they don't, it's going to be an interesting weekend.
Yes, if they somehow beat us, expect some news for sure. Also, looking forward to next week, not just because it's Thanksgiving, but it's Battle for Atlantis tournament. So get to see how the Hogs match up against some higher level teams. So that'll be exciting to watch. So
honestly, I think I'm more excited for that than the Missouri game.
Yeah, Missouri game is going to be kind of an afterthought. So, but we could ruin Drinkwitz's dream season, and that will, I guess that will suffice a bowl, I guess. I don't know. But all right, for Ashton, for Jason, I'm Blake. This has been the Hogs Happy Hour here on the 4-Star Sports Media Network. And until next time, we will see you later.
See ya.